So there is some bad advice out there for women. And a lot of women are led by some really bad narratives. That while it may sound good on paper, it doesn't actually help them lead to what they're looking for. It doesn't help them find what they want in reality. And I think unfortunately, a lot of women are struggling in the dating world. And it's not their fault. It's purely because of bad direction and terrible guidelines the modern narrative paints for us today, especially the guidelines that have been given to women. And this is why more and more women are finding themselves single and finding themselves unfulfilled, even if they are technically involved with a guy. Even when they're technically involved with multiple men, they're still feeling a lack of intimacy and a lack of connection. And so I'm going to debunk some of the main advice that are given to women today. We're going to go through some of the most common dating advice and dating narrative given to women today, why I believe it is terrible advice, and what to do instead. So the first one, which is the most common one, which I think has actually come from modern feminism, and while may work for a very small percentage of women, I don't see it working for the majority of the female population. And that is to have sex like a man. The truth is, when it comes to sex and when it comes to men, men treat sex like going to the gym. They do it because it makes them feel good. They get a release of endorphins. There's a level of validation for the man because a woman has said, I think you are good enough to share my body with, but it doesn't mean anything. Or rather, it can mean nothing. A man can have sex with a woman that he doesn't like or doesn't even care about. A man can have sex with a woman that he doesn't even find attractive. But because men are hardwired to seek sexual opportunity, if a woman presents easy opportunity, even if he may not find her attractive, if she offers that sexual opportunity, she literally just hands it to him on a plate without him having to put any effort in, most men would indulge in that. That doesn't mean he likes her. That doesn't mean he's close to her. Heck, that doesn't even mean he respects her. Now, what a lot of women are finding is that while they may be sexually liberated, doing this over long term actually hurts them emotionally, even hurts them spiritually. Because the truth is, for the vast majority of us, sex affects men and women differently. A lot of the time, women who have easy, casual sex, women who choose to engage in sex and intimacy the typical way that a man would, she will often find that the casual sex isn't that great most of the time. She won't even orgasm unless the guy is pretty much exceptionally good in the bedroom. And the reason why most women don't actually have great sex when they're engaging in it very casually, especially compared to when they're in a committed, exclusive relationship with a man they love, admire, and respect, and who feels the same way for them, is because for a woman to orgasm, for a woman to climax, it takes a level of vulnerability to have with the man. It takes a level of intimacy. And it's very difficult to have that level of vulnerability and intimacy with someone when you're having sex in a very typically masculine way. That is devoid of emotion, that is devoid of connection. It feels very empty. And while it can be somewhat pleasurable in the moment, it's in the moments after it's just happened that a lot of women feel hollow. They feel empty. They do feel that level of unfulfillment because it's lacking intimacy, especially with a guy who isn't looking to invest in her emotionally. It can be quite damaging for her. It can be quite damaging to her own self-esteem. And so what the cycle then becomes is that she feels bad about herself, or she has low self-esteem about her own wealth, or she has low self-esteem about her own worth and her own value. She then realizes, oh, when I offer sexual attention, when I offer easy sex to men, that makes me feel good because men desire me when I offer them sexual attention. And yes, a man can desire you for sex, but that is not him desiring you. That is him desiring what you can give to him. And that is not the same as investing in you. And so this is why a lot of women who engage in this long term, a lot of them feel very used and very unfulfilled. Not to mention, when you are having sex with a guy who maybe is very good in the sheets, she starts to emotionally connect with him and she feels that she starts to bond with him. So then if he isn't taking it seriously, which if we're being honest, most men who do engage in casual sex are not taking it seriously. That is literally the definition of casual sex. It is void of serious investment. It is void of emotional investment, at least on his part. It means that she gets really invested into a man who was never looking to invest in her in that moment. And so this is very damaging for a lot of women. And as sex affects men and women differently, she unfortunately gets to a point where she feels hurt and even damaged by engaging in this type of behavior. And for many women at this point, they go down one of these three avenues. She will either, one, continue engaging in casual sex, going through the cycle of getting validation, but then having a lack of self-worth. Two, she will either start to resent men themselves for using her body, and this resentment can cause her to swear off men entirely or even start to entertain having relationships with women, which of course there's nothing wrong with that, but it does happen. Or three, she becomes completely abstinent. She decides, no, I'm going to change this entire script. I'm not having sex at all. I'm not having any casual sex, and I'm going to wait for sex. She goes from one extreme to the other. And while the extremes aren't always helpful, I think there's something we can take away from doing that last option that most women might find better. And I say this because when a woman decides to go this way, she starts to attach more value to sex, more value to physical intimacy. And so if she starts to move in a way where she says, yes, I will only have sex with people who have a level of care for me and who I have a level of care for them, that is actually much better going to help her use the power she has over men to serve for what she's looking for and to ultimately get the kind of relationship that she wants. The next bad advice given to women is do this to change his mind. This is a trap that a lot of women fall into at one point or another. A lot of women fall into the trap of when they start dating a guy and he openly communicates saying, hey, I'm not really looking for anything serious. Some women often get into the mindset of, okay, I know you say that now, but if we spend more time together and you see how great of a person I am and you see how great we are together, then you can change your mind. That if I have more intimacy with this guy, I can change his mind. And I really want every woman to understand, if you're going to take away anything from this video, is that you cannot change a man's mind. That is not me saying that men cannot change their mind themselves. That is not me saying that men don't ever change their mind, but they only change their mind once they are ready to and of their own accord. You cannot trigger that change in his mind. You cannot enforce that change. The only time I've seen this happen as a rare exception is when a man comes across a woman who is so exceptionally desirable to him, i.e. she is very much significantly above his league, but there's just something about him that he wants, which 9 times out of 10, most women want a man on her level or above, never below, at least, especially significantly below. That is the only time that I've seen a guy go, okay, well, the chance of me attracting this kind of woman is almost not going to happen again, and so I need to grab it with both hands. I'm going to swear off other women just so I can keep this one that I never ever would get to attract again. But to be honest, if he's the kind of man who's going to swear off other women, that suggests that he has other options, which means he's a desirable guy to some degree, because only the top desirable men actually have options. So the chance of a woman being so significantly above him that he's willing to change his entire being just to accommodate for the narrative that she wants is incredibly rare. And while that does sound nice, this only happens in 50 Shades of Grey. And so if you are in a position where you're dating a guy or you've been involved with a guy and he's articulated that to you and you are thinking that you can change his mind for your own benefit, for your future self, I really need you to let that go. What can be hard to understand is that a lot of the time when a man says, hey, I'm not looking for a relationship, he always leaves off 2 words of that sentence. And that is with you. It's not nice to admit, but a lot of the time, that is the reality. Now, there are occasions where he just really isn't in a place to give anything serious. But more often than not, I think it's just something that women don't realize. And it's not your fault because no guy ever really communicates that to you. But anytime you ever hear this from a man, or if your friends hear it from a guy or someone you know, just always assume and take the position that he means with that individual. And it's not a nice reality, either because he just isn't in that space to, or, which is more the main one, is he just doesn't see what you have in that way. The next bad advice that is given to women today is that your success makes you more attractive. Now, to be fair, this isn't bad advice depending on how you define success. This is only bad advice if you're trying to attract a man who is successful himself, who is a strong masculine man, who is a man of value, who has good leadership, who is confident, who is intelligent. A man who wants to be the provider and protector of the relationship he chooses to be in, and for the woman he chooses. For that kind of man, this is terrible advice. The reason your success doesn't make you more attractive to this kind of man is because he doesn't look to you to provide. He doesn't look to you to lead. He doesn't look to you to protect. This kind of advice is only good if you're looking to attract the kind of man who is looking to you to provide, who is looking to you to lead, who is looking to you to provide friend. He's going to looking for you to be in the driver's seat. He's going to be looking to you for guidance. He looks to you to make a plan. A man who is more in his feminine is going to be attracted to the woman who is more in her masculine. And for most industries to be successful, we do have to sit in the masculine side of ourselves. And so that kind of advice is going to attract that kind of man. But the reality is, most women don't want that kind of man. Now, this isn't me saying that as a woman, you shouldn't be successful. By all means, 100%, you should strive for what you want, but be successful for yourself. Be successful for your own ambitions, for your own achievements, and testing what you're capable of to see what potential you have for whatever it is that you want to do. Always do it for you, but understand that success doesn't increase attraction to the kind of man that most women are looking for. What I will say though, as a caveat to what I've just said, is that passion is very attractive to men and to women. So if you have a deep passion about something, whether that's art, whether that's charity, whether that's working out and fitness, if you have a passion for something, that is very attractive regardless of what level you're at. When we say success, we are referring to someone's level. When we say someone is successful, we are saying that they are at a high level within their chosen industry or field. But that doesn't even necessarily mean that they're passionate at that high level. Passion is attractive at any level, whether that's knitting, whether that's acting, whether that's dancing, even if you only do it as a hobby. Because regardless of how successful you are, whatever your passion is fire for the soul, and that is something that men love in a woman. The next piece of advice that is very, very bad for women and that we have to debunk is that sex makes a man love you. My favorite phrase at the moment, which I think is so true, is that men need sex to feel loved, but women need love to have sex. And while that is true, that men do need sex to feel loved, it is not through sex that a man loves a woman. Men show that love, their investment, through their emotional time, through their non-sexual time, through service to her, through making her feel safe physically and emotionally, giving her his time, giving her his affection, giving her his affirmation and reassurance. That is how men show their love to the woman that they choose. Now, how men fall in love with a woman isn't through when or how he has sex with her, but it is when he is emotionally vulnerable with her. Generally speaking, and this is the interesting parallel between biology and nature. Generally speaking, when a woman is having sex with a man, she is the one who is physically vulnerable because most men are bigger and stronger than most women, and most men could physically overpower most women. And so it takes a level of vulnerability from the woman to have sex and intimacy with a man. And it's through that she will start to bond with him. But the parallel is that for men, when they are being emotional with a woman, that is when he is being vulnerable. That's when it tends to take more vulnerability on his part to establish that emotional intimacy with her. Because men have a lot less outlets to be emotional, and it takes a lot more for a man to share his emotions with a woman. It takes more time for men to understand how they feel, why they feel that way, and then to express and articulate it in a way that someone else can understand. And so it's through that emotional vulnerability that he starts to fall in love with a woman, provided that she takes care of him in that way. When she is there for him when he is vulnerable, even if he's a little bit emotional, if she can comfort him those moments, that is when men start to look at her and go, I'm falling in love with this person. The next piece of advice that is somewhat misleading is that all emotionally unavailable men are narcissists. There is an overuse of this term, narcissist. Now, I do think there are more narcissistic people in this day and age because of social media and dating apps. It is conditioning us to constantly seek out self-validation for likes, for comments, for views, for clout. We are conditioned to seek validation and attention is the most valuable currency right now. That's why everyone is doing everything they can to get as much attention as possible. And that is a very addictive drug. And that encourages narcissistic tendencies when we are doing things to feed that dopamine hit and to feed that ego. And so when it comes to a man who is not emotionally available, and I want to prefix this saying that this isn't me saying that there aren't narcissistic men out there, but we have to remember that a narcissist is a medical term. It's like saying half the people we date are autistic or half the people we date have ADHD. It is a medical term to describe a biological and a psychological condition, which means there is a concrete definition of the term narcissist. And the definition of the term narcissist is someone who is extremely self-involved to the degree that it makes a person ignore the needs of those around them. While everyone may show occasional narcissistic behavior, true narcissists frequently disregard others and their feelings, and they also do not understand the effect that their behavior has on other people. So someone who is a narcissist is so self-centered. Not only do they not care about other people's feelings, but they don't even recognize other people's feelings because they're so focused on themselves. So while we all may have some narcissistic behaviors or tendencies, which makes sense because we're all human and humans are self-serving by design, there'll be some actions that we might take for ourselves, which can be interpreted as narcissism. And so just because a man may not be emotionally available, while that may hurt and while it may have us reflecting, wow, I feel like I've wasted this emotional time, this physical time, this sexual time with this person because they don't feel the same way, that doesn't necessarily mean that he is a narcissist. Now, if he lies about being emotionally available just to use you for sex, I would 100% of course agree that that is incredibly selfish behavior. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a quote-unquote medically diagnosed narcissist. And I would say the same to guys, that if a woman does just use you for outings, use you for money, use you for dates, use you for favors, and she's not reciprocating that investment of intimacy and romanticism, that doesn't necessarily mean, while it's selfish, that she is also a narcissist. And if a man actually does communicate to you that he's not emotionally available, that definitely shows that he's not a narcissist because he's communicating that to you so that you can either manage your feelings and expectations or because it's best that things end. Now, he may still want to continue having sex with you. He may still want to actually spend time with you. And I understand that as a woman, that can be confusing because essentially you're like, okay, so wait, basically you want us to act like a couple without labeling anything of it, and we're not having any level of commitment or exclusivity, at least on his part. And it's true, while he may not technically want a relationship with what you guys have, that doesn't mean that he doesn't enjoy spending time with you. It doesn't mean that he doesn't enjoy your company. But then at this point, it's on you as the woman to decide for yourself. Do I want to continue to bring value to a man who doesn't want to choose me? And I would always hope that whenever a woman asks herself this question, I would always hope that the answer she comes up with is no. Because when you say no, that is you commanding your respect, and that is you commanding the value that you have to bring to the person you're saying it to. You're saying, I deserve to be chosen by someone to give my value to them. And if you don't want to choose me, that's fine, but I'm going to take it somewhere else. The danger this has when we oversubscribe people to the term narcissist is because it makes it easy to project that picture on someone new when maybe they don't fall into that category. But they display something that maybe triggers a similar feeling of being with the before said narcissist. We may be looking for certain tendencies that we've dealt with before that may not be related and may not correlate. This can cause us to come to an inaccurate conclusion of someone new who maybe could actually be great for us. Be prepared for the bad, but always look for the good. If you're ready to invite a great guy into your life, then make sure you enroll in my Claim Your Man program below, where I show you how to do just that. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep it slick.